Yo, what if I told you that there was this one indicator that I found that perfectly predicts what Bitcoin is going to do next? Now, it's not the power law, it's not the quantile model, and it's certainly not the stock to flow. But this indicator is incredibly interesting. It's, in fact, something that not that many people have talked about, but someone has found it. And I have to give credit where credit is due because this gentleman, who was just invited to be part of the Selmer Scientific, I think he was director of Bitcoin strategy. Um, he discovered this. He has a YouTube channel. He goes by the name of Joe Burnett. I highly recommend giving him a follow. And he discovered an indicator that has accurately predicted every single Bitcoin top and bottom from 2013 to 2017 to 2021 and potentially the 2025 top. So what am I talking about? First, let's go through the very famous indicators, the ones that everyone is talking about, the ones that are extremely well known. And of course, it's the power law. Everyone talks about the power law. It's gone viral. I've had Giovanni on the show. I'm a big fan of his. I've had Fred Krueger on the show. And I'm a big fan of them. And essentially, the power law model so far has proven to be accurate. And it essentially kind of gives you a variation of where Bitcoin could be by different dates. So, according to the power law model, the very, very top, according to this, be potentially 500K. In the middle could be 149, and the bottom could be around 52. That's the power law. So it kind of gives you a variation of where it could be. And then there's a different variation of the power law by Cena. I had an interview with him not too many weeks ago. Simply Bitcoin IRL. Highly recommend you guys watching that episode. You guys enjoyed that episode. I think that episode got like 35,000 views or something. But Cena invented something called the quantile model, and Plan C has been talking about this as well. Big fan of their work. And we actually had one of these guys on the show the other day to kind of explain how much Bitcoin you need to retire on different income levels. So it goes from 50K and it goes all the way to 100 to a million. And it tells you exactly how much Bitcoin you need at what age in order for you to essentially take out that specific amount of salary that you want on a yearly basis. So the quantile model is I would say the second most famous. I would say the most famous is the stock to flow, right? You guys know stock to flow, Plan B, but I think stock to flow has been proven wrong, to say the least, at this point, right? So right now, the models that are most popular have been the power law model and the quantile model. So here's the quantile model, and it says if you model Bitcoin's probability space using a quantile regression model, you can identify three distinct zones: cold, warm, and hot. Bitcoin spends exactly 1/3 of its time in each zone. For the end of 2025, these zones are: the cold zone is between 55K and 85K. The warm zone is between 85K and 136K. And he describes that zone as market warms up, masses get notice, train leaves the station, rapid price growth. We still haven't reached that yet. And then the so-called hot zone, where masses and levered longs are here, expect high volume, vicious swings. There is great room for upside, but also the risk of reversal build up fast, right? So he's describing like the different zones and the probability of them, right? So currently where we're at right now, we're somewhere around this yellow line for the audio listeners, roughly around the 100K mark, right? Roughly right in the middle, according to the quantile model. Now, what was really interesting, and I have to give credit where credit is due, is I saw this amazing video from Joe Burnett. Go check out his YouTube channel. And by the way, congratulations. He was just named the director of Bitcoin strategy at Selmer. The dude knows what he's talking about, right? And he's a pretty young guy. And he discovered something called the copper and gold ratio. So I'm going to show you a screenshot of that right now. And essentially, what it does is it compares the copper and the gold ratio. And I'll describe what that is. So, the copper and gold ratio compares the price of copper used in construction and manufacturing to gold, a traditional safe haven asset. When this ratio rises, it signals optimism in the real economy. When it fails, it reflects fear or slowdown. Historically, every time this ratio bottoms out and starts to recover, like in 2013, like in 2017, and 2021, has coincided with the beginning of major Bitcoin bull runs. Why? Because a rising copper slash gold ratio signals reflation, more liquidity, and a shift from defensive to risk on assets. Bitcoin, being a hard asset like gold and a high beta tech asset, benefits from both narratives. When the market senses economic recovery and fiat debasement at the same time, Bitcoin thrives. Now in 2025, we're seeing the same pattern again. The ratio has bottomed and is just beginning to turn. If history rhymes, another explosive Bitcoin run might be around the corner. And I think this is what a lot of us are feeling. So let's explore this screenshot that I took from Joe Burnett's video. So here, 2013. And again, guys, like this model wasn't made to fit the tops and the bottoms of the Bitcoin bull runs, right? There's perfect correlation here, and it's between copper and gold. And as I just explained, the reason that copper it goes up is because people are interested in building things out, whether it's buildings and the economy and the equipment. And when they think the economy is slowing down, they're like, you know what? We got to get defensive. We got to park our assets in gold because things are starting to slow down, right? It's a really good indication. And as you could see, it's essentially predicted to the T. This has been the most accurate, in my opinion, model that I've ever seen. The top of the 2013 bull market, the top of the 2017 bull market, and the top of the 2021 bull market, and has also predicted the bottoms of the 2016 bull market, of the 2018 bull market, and hopefully of the 2025. So, a couple things that are happening here, right? Trump is currently very frustrated with Jerome Powell. He's been making jokes about replacing him, about, like, hey, Jerome Powell is too late to lower these rates. The rates are too expensive. Borrowing money is too expensive. Therefore, it's very difficult for, equities to run, for the market to flourish, right? Trump is blaming Powell. I had a conversation with Tom Luongo. He's basically saying that Powell is playing ball with Trump. This is all kind of this 4D chess master plan. Recommend watching that episode if you want to know more. But the point is that we are not in a QE environment. We are not in an easy money environment. We are still technically in a QT environment. I know that there's some shenanigans and they're doing some stuff behind the scenes, and they are essentially doing QE. The M2 money supply is going higher. Make no mistake, but the official stance is we are still, in a QT environment. Essentially, we are still in an environment where the Fed has rates extremely high, and a lot of people speculate that that is not good for assets, right? It makes borrowing expensive, right? But as you could see, that's BS, because the M2 money supply still has gone up. But again, what I find absolutely fascinating is how accurate this model predicts the Bitcoin tops and the Bitcoin bottoms, and it's completely correlated to uncorrelated assets like gold and like copper. You can say that Bitcoin is similar to gold, and people see Bitcoin like gold. But it's interesting how copper essentially, picks the tops or picks the bottom. Like, this is fascinating. This is the most accurate model I have ever seen, much more than the power law, much more than plan B, much more than the quantile model. And shout out to Joe Burnett for discovering this. I saw his video the other day, and it seems like this has been the most accurate indicator of predicting the Bitcoin tops and bottoms. Opti, I want to get your thoughts on this, my friend, because, dude, like, what is going on? Like, this is pretty crazy. This came out of nowhere. This came out of left field, man. Like, now we're using, like, forget about the tea leaves, and the chickens. Now we're using copper and gold to predict the tops and bottoms of Bitcoin. But I will say, dude, you got to give credit where credit is due. This is incredibly accurate, man. And if this holds true, this means that we're bottoming out in this cycle, and it looks like things are going to start picking up again. And as you could see from, history, when things start to pick up again, that's when we start to have those parabolas. So very interesting type of information. Haven't seen it before until I saw Joe's video. Opti, what do you think? Is this tea leaves, man? Is this another form of tea leaves? Is this copper leaves? Is this
gold plated leaves?
Is this gold plated copper leaves? is this gold leaves plated in copper? What's going on? What are your thoughts on this? This is fascinating, by the way.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, as someone that covers the Bitcoin every day, and I think maybe it's just like human psychology. It is interesting how we keep using a lot of charts to try to, explain what is going on here. I really do want this chart to play out, because I do remember in what was it, like 2020? I remember going out there 2021-ish and talking with about the stock to flow model, until we realized that it wasn't really the best predictor of where the price is going. I totally remember going out to my friends and pointing the stock to flow. Maybe this is like right when it came out, and basically telling them that, like, dude, look, bro, like, look at this chart. It's going to go up forever. It's, mathematically, algorithmically confirmed it's going up forever. Just check the charts, bro. And obviously I was wrong. I was a little exuberant at the moment.
Like, to give credit, like, he has a very assuring voice.
Yeah.
He has like this like Northern European, like, I know what I'm talking about. Very smart.
Blonde haired, blue eyes. I trust him.
Very smart, like, kind of like very, strong, stoic voice. And, his accent. And I'm just like, this guy knows.
Plan B. I thought you were talking about Joe Burnett. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was like, dude, like, I trust.
Yeah. And he had the background.
And he has that confidence in his voice, bro. So, I'm like, okay. And then as it relates to Joe, like, forget about, like, he's wearing a tie and a suit, right? Like, that inspires confidence too. Regardless of his appearance. But what I will say here is
the stock to flow.
The stock to flow, dude. Like, I remember this was a big deal in 2020, right? Like, it was a really big deal. People were really buying into this, and people really got wrecked. And what I will say is, dude, there's a lot of untrustworthy people that have blue eyes, dude.
I'm just trolling, dude. I'm just trolling. He just looks, he looks like a trustworthy person.
He looks like a trustworthy person because of the way he dresses, bro.
He reminds me of one of my high school
friends. If he was wearing a hoodie, dude,
and a t-shirt,
and a t-shirt, he wouldn't be trustworthy. So, anyways, back to this. So, yeah, I mean, like this got a lot of people wrecked, bro. This got a lot of people wrecked. Um, a lot of people were like basing this assumptions. I remember in 21, dude, we were like, yo, this thing's going to hit 100K confirmed. According to this model, Bitcoin should be at 370,000, 400,000 by now, right? So
There's still time.
this got proven wrong. Now this cycle's, different model is the power law, which has still
It's not bullish enough.
it's still proven to be accurate so far, right? And then the quantile model, which I'm the biggest fan of. I think this is the most accurate in my opinion. And Cena kind of breaks down like the percentages
not bullish enough
of kind of different categories. But again, the most accurate has been the copper gold ratio to point out the tops and the bottoms, which I find absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. Wait, Nico, before we go on.
Someone in the chat. Yeah, someone in the chat. I want to read this. Senor Papi says,
get out.
Now I'm surprised if Bitcoin hits 120K this year. So stagnant now. Yeah, I mean, 100%. Bitcoin sure does feel like it's acting like a stable coin. I agree with that. We got lightning goats in the chat. We do need a Trump pump. Absolutely. Someone's saying Plan B sounds Dutch, right? He sounds like Nordic or something. Lightning Goat says,
no, it's the one up here. This one's funny.
Lightning Goat says, when I first got in there was a spreadsheet on Google Drive that showed we'd be at 1 million already. This is so true, man. This is so true. Silent Lamb says not bullish enough.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. But hey, Nico, let me pull this one
90K coming. You were telling me this morning.
Well,
bro.
No, I didn't say that. Are we going full chart boy here?
Opti has a paid group, bro.
No, I don't. I don't do paid groups. But here, actually, let me go here. So first off,
should we do the cream?
I don't know, dude. Who cares? I did see this the other day, which is to me looks pretty similar. But again, there's no data here. So it doesn't tell me what indicators or what I'm looking at. All I know is I'm looking at the Bitcoin price and this business cycle, which does sound what Joe Burnett is kind of saying. And if you kind of look at these together, it's seemingly saying something very similar, that if you base the Bitcoin price off the business cycle, and of course, I forget who it was. It was either Hard Hardle or Winsome in the chat trolling me for saying that I like the M2 global liquidity. Well, now we've seen that one fall off. Again, we use a lot of these models to not only just kind of confirm our bias, but also explain what we're feeling and what we're seeing, and really trying to chart out where this is going, not only for ourselves, but obviously I think on as a secondary thing, so that we can show it to our friends and family and kind of make them a little more comfortable about what's going on here, because no one really knows what the price is going. I'm sure at some point we'll be able to make some kind of chart that maybe follows the Bitcoin price movements. But these two charts here are kind of saying the same thing, that we got a top, similar times, 3 different tops for these business cycles. And we are in, the very bottom of this business cycle. And once it starts flipping, it's when the price is going to start ripping. And so, I like seeing things like this confirm my bias. I want to see the price start ripping.
I want to talk about, we got to define, by the way, I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. 1,300 of you guys watching live. Shout out to the Rumble chat as well. 40 of you guys watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying today's content, make sure to smash that like button. But let's kind of define what a business cycle is, right? Because we're talking about this business cycle. And I think I saw it yesterday. It was I think it was Arthur Hayes talking about how Michael Saylor was talking about the 5-year business cycle. So I kind of want to define what a business cycle refers to. So for anyone listening, so the business cycle refers to the natural rise and fall of economic growth over time. It's made up of 4 key phases: expansion, economic activity rises, GDP grows, unemployment falls, consumer spending and business investment increase. Peak, the economy hits its highest point of growth. inflation may rise. Often this is when central banks like the Fed begin tightening monetary policy to prevent overheating, contraction, a recession, the growth slows or becomes negative, and then the TRO, which is the economy, bottoms out. I think we might be here, my friend. I think this is where we might be at, bro. Um, and I think that this is what this is pointing to. I'm going to read this description one more time, guys. Maybe not all of it, but basically the copper gold ratio compares the price of copper used in construction and manufacturing to gold, a traditional safe haven asset. When the ratio rises, it signals optimism in the economy, right? So again, when the ratio of copper, right, rises, it means that, hey, people are building, people are manufacturing. Remember, copper is used for all electronics, right? It's used for wiring in the house. Like it has very good conductivity. So does gold, actually, but gold's much more expensive. So when copper's in high demand, it shows basically that, hey, people are building things. There's economic hope. And then when gold is in demand, people are playing the defensive. Now, what's fascinating, I got to say this again, is, dude, it completely correlates to the Bitcoin tops and bottoms. Completely, 100%. Dude, you couldn't even put the correlation here harder if you tried. Like, it really, really points it out. Like, some of these bottom, now it's not the exact bottoms, but those are the exact tops. Like, look at 2013, look at 2017, look at 2017, look at 2021. I mean, we're still in this kind of, to use the business cycle definitions, we're still in kind of the contraction phase. And this could explain why this cycle has been acting so different compared to the rest of the cycles. This could be the explanation. This could be the reasoning as to why things have been different, right? So it's a really, really interesting indicator. I've never seen it before, and it's absolutely fascinating, man. Opti, what are your thoughts, bro?
No, yeah, I'd love for this to be true. Like, it'd be very easy to point at your friends and family and essentially tell them, hey, man, like, I know you're feeling a type of way, but like, just trust me, things are going to work out. It's going to flip. Instead of just saying that, you can kind of point to a chart and be like, look, mom, look, dad, look, friends. We are kind of in a bear market, business cycle right now. And this is why the Bitcoin price isn't going up as much. Of course, everyone's wondering what's going on with the Bitcoin price. Every one of you guys out there is lying if you say you don't care about the Bitcoin price. You can lie to yourself, but don't lie to us here in the chat like you're all high and mighty. Everyone cares what goes on with the Bitcoin price, and we see it all the time in regards to views. Like, when the Bitcoin price pumps, everyone wants Bitcoin content. When the price starts dumping, no one cares, and it's a ghost town. So our whole industry revolves around the Bitcoin price going up. And everyone is starting to feel, I mean, we've been talking about it on the show for a minute. There's so much good news, allegedly good news around Bitcoin, and yet the Bitcoin price is kind of stagnant. Everyone's wondering what's going on. Is it a lot of paper Bitcoin? Are they really buying all the Bitcoin? Like, what is actually happening? Is Bitcoin falling the global M2 liquidity? Like, what is going on? The price should start ripping. And if this chart does kind of play out like Joe Burnett was saying, I mean, it's easy to backtest stuff, but if it still predicts stuff into the future, then this might be the defining chart that people need to follow and we can all point to. And it would be good. As much as we all believe in the sailor meme of all models are broken, but, some of them are useful, maybe this is one of those cases where Joe did kind of point something out. Maybe it will be useful moving forward. And at a certain point, this kind of doesn't hold up as much. It's probably 10 to 20 years down the line.
I disagree completely, bro. Like, from a historical context, it's accurately predicted basically, the booms and the bust. Basically, like like when copper demand is high is when people are building, when people are manufacturing, and when gold demand is high is when people are seeking safety, right? But what's really fascinating to me is the correlation between the Bitcoin booms and bust And again, this is a great explanation as to why this cycle has felt different, because we have essentially been in a QT environment. Number one of the very few Bitcoin cycles that's been the case, that the rates have been as high as they have been, right? But again, it kind of explains Bitcoin's weird price behavior, but simultaneously, this gives me a tremendous amount of hope, because this tells me that 2017 is literally around the corner. And the man, the myth, the legend himself actually tweeted this out this morning, baby. Summer 2017. So the discover of this, and I remember tweeting this out in American Huddle, and he unpinned it because I think, we just got so PTSD'd with everything that's happened so far. But, you know, I remember tweeting in January of this year, I said, dude, this year reminds me of 2017. And for anyone who wasn't there 2017, guys, it was the year that Opti got in. I got in I got in like 6 months before 2017. But that year I never forget, because I kind of didn't know what Bitcoin was. Opti didn't know what Bitcoin was. There was no Bitcoin content. It was Andreas and Max and Stacy, and shout out to them, and Tone Vase, of course. And essentially, like, the fork wars were still happening. Like, it was bananas back then. It was like the Wild West of the Wild West. And in the beginning of 2017, in January of 2017, if I would have told you, dude, Nico, the price of Bitcoin is going to end up at $20,000 at the end of the year, it was at $1,000 in the beginning of the year, I would not have believed you. I would have laughed you out of the room.
I would have stacked harder.
So a lot of things could happen in 6 months, right? And this indicator perfectly explains what's happening. We might be bottoming out right now, right? And remember, Trump and Powell are playing tug of war right now. Powell does not want to lower rates. So the cost of borrowing money is still extremely expensive, and risk on assets don't perform well when rates are high, right? So anyways, Opti, I mean, this is pretty crazy, dude. Like, this indicator, bro, this has been the most accurate indicator I've ever seen. And shout out to Joe Burnett for discovering it. I mean, there's a reason he's the director of Bitcoin strategy at Selmler, bro. They hired right. What are your thoughts, dude?
Yeah, I want it to be true. I really want to believe. I am Mulder from X-Files right now, Nico. I really want to believe that it's going to continue to predict the future. That's how I know if it's correct. Like, it's easy to kind of look back and make the math fit the data, so to speak, as we saw with like the Plan B stuff, and we're kind of seeing with Giovanni stuff, and everyone's trying to make the past math kind of play out and predict what's going on in the future. But that's how we'll know if this plays out. So I'm very interested to keep watching this. We're gonna maybe we gotta reach out to Joe and see how he made this chart here, so everyone now has this chart, and this is the de facto chart that we're watching.
Yeah, and just to kind of do it like a quick explanation, right? So, and this is where we're at right now. Remember, Opti, could you pull up the Fed rates right now? Just pull them up on screen while I kind of explain it. Because again, Bitcoin hasn't existed in this type of environment just from the Fed website itself. And Bitcoin hasn't existed in this type of environment before. And just Google it, dude. But Bitcoin hasn't existed in this type of environment in the past before, bro. So, like, essentially, where's the chart, man? This one, there it is. Here we go. Boom, boom, bang. So Bitcoin hasn't existed in this type of environment before. Like, look at 2010, right? So you can say basically the 2021, but not at this rate, like not at this height, right? This has never happened before. Most of Bitcoin's history, right? The Fed between 2009 and 2015, it was essentially free to borrow money. And then when the bull market hit, take a look at that. It was free to borrow money, essentially. That hasn't gone down yet. It's gone down a little bit, but it hasn't gone down. This is why Trump, if you could pull up the Truth Social posts of Trump, like complaining about Powell, this is why Trump is so pissed off, because you have to understand when the Fed raises interest rates, it becomes more expensive to borrow money. That slows down the economy because businesses invest less and consumers spend less. At the same time, safe investments like bonds start paying more. So people move money out of risky stuff like stocks, real estate, and Bitcoin. And also, when rates go up, the value of future profits drop. So stocks, especially tech and growth companies, take a hit. From an Austrian perspective, high rates just expose all the bad investments that were made when money was cheap. It's not the rate hike that's the problem. It's the bubble popping. So I don't know if you have that pulled up, Opti. Here we go.
I have one.
So
it's on Twitter, though.
And this is why Trump is basically, acting the way he's been acting. If you could zoom into that, the consensus of almost everybody is that the Fed should cut rates sooner rather than later. Too late, Powell, a man legendary for being too late, will probably blow it again. But who knows? He's been going hard in
this
the paint
one's newer. This one's
against
newer.
Powell for a minute now. This is the latest one. Dude, this guy is so funny. Do I have the clip from yesterday?
We played that like 47 times.
Dude, that shit was so funny. So this is one of the latest ones. Too late, Jerome Powell is costing our economy, our country, hundreds of billions of dollars. He is truly one of I don't know if I could say that. He is truly one of I'll say
the most destructive.
Yeah, the most destructive people in government. The Fed board is complicit. Europe has had 10 cuts. We have had none. We should be 2.5 points lower and save billions on all of Biden's short-term debt. We have low inflation. Too late, an American disgrace. And remember, they raise rates to cool down inflation. But if you pull up the latest inflation data, it's actually pretty effing low right now, right? It's 2.4% is the latest inflation data, which is very close to that 2% number. I've been making the case that the Fed has been acting politically for a while now to kind of neuter the Trump administration. And the reason for that is because they don't like Bitcoin. They don't like the fact that the Fed has been cut out of the regulation of digital assets. They've been dragging their feet on this. We've been covering this. Caitlin Long has been doing an incredible job covering this because of Custodia Bank. And essentially, the Fed has been acting politically. The Fed wants a CBDC to kind of ensure its survival. And they were guilty of, a lot of the things that were happening with Operation Choke Point 2.0, right? And I remember I was interviewing Senator Lummis in Wyoming. Here's a piece, right? This is from James O'Keefe, right? And this is a member of the Federal Reserve. This is someone who works at the Federal Reserve. So again, this isn't just me, Nico, speculating. This is hear it from the horse's mouth. Horses, I think that's the saying, right? Anyways.
On principal economists. Right now I'm preparing for something. I'm going to do a talk to the Fed board.
Meet Harel Hizmo. He's a principal economist working inside the Federal Reserve.
So you write speeches for Powell.
Yeah, like for certain paragraphs. I'm just really worried that I'm saying stuff like stuff that's classified.
Do you deal with classified stuff?
It's all classified, right?
Quote, it's all classified.
It's all classified. Trump is a crazy person. It's very clear. I mean, he's a dumb guy. Like,
Does he hate Trump? And like, is the feeling neutral?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, there you go. There you go. This is someone who works inside the Federal Reserve, right? This is someone who works inside the Federal Reserve. He's asking, does Powell dislike Trump? The guy literally says, yes, Trump is a crazy person. Mind you, while inflation was running hot during the Biden administration, Powell lowered rates multiple times, right? So again, I think the Fed is acting politically. I think they want a central bank digital currency. I don't think that they like that digital assets are being basically integrated to the traditional financial system. And I think that this is a way of kind of slowing down, Trump's presidency and potentially hurting the Republican Party during the midterms. And the Republican Party has been pro Bitcoin, pro crypto. So again, that's my theory of the case. But I gotta say, guys, here on Simply Bitcoin, we've been more accurate than we've been wrong. Tomorrow's Bitcoin news today, baby. So air horns, please. Guys, we have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. We have tons to talk about. Lots of things happening in Capitol Hill regarding just going back and forth. AOC and RFK Jr. are going back and forth. AOC is basically saying, hey, RFK, do you own Bitcoin? And RFK's like, yeah, which I thought was fascinating. Of course, you have the Bitcoin senator being interviewed at the BPI summit that's happening live right now. We have a clip for you guys that we're going to play. And also Frank Corva, the political correspondent for Bitcoin, our friends over at Bitcoin Magazine, he does a very deep dive into the Senate banking hearing on crypto market structure and the call for regulation. This is something that Senator Cynthia Lummis have been calling for a while. She's also been calling that, she wants to essentially, end, this is from yesterday, she essentially wants to exempt Americans to use Bitcoin for small everyday purchases without triggering tax reporting. So I think we are making progress, ladies and gentlemen, and it's definitely exciting stuff. And of course, Opti's got a special surprise for you guys during the culture. It's going to be an incredible show, guys. Smash that like button. Really, really helps with the algos. And stay tuned because we still have a ton to talk about and cover. So smash that like button if you guys are enjoying the show. We're at 153 likes already. Help us get to 200 likes by the 45-minute mark. So smash that like button like I've been saying. Anyways, guys, let's give a shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Why do we recommend bitcoinwell.com here at Simply Bitcoin? Because it's an automatic self-custody Bitcoin on-ramp. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. You put in your email address. It takes 2 to 5 minutes to get signed up. And bada bing, bada boom, you're ready to buy Bitcoin. If you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, and you want a tailored white glove service, you want a dedicated representative to help you every single time you want to buy Bitcoin, you can call, you can text them. Check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. Also, when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn something called Bitcoin Well points, and you can redeem those points towards a bunch of different prizes, like a Simply Bitcoin hoodie. Or you can redeem it towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest, which we're doing live for you guys right now on air. Get your Lightning wallets ready. First person to scan the QR code today has won 598 sats. By the way, if you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply when you sign up, you get 3 tosses into the wishing well. Every single toss, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. This is like $1,000 these days. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. We have tons to talk about. We will be right back in just 1 second. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today. All right, everybody, we are back. At the time of recording, we are at $107,520, block height 902,683 sats per dollar, 930 sats per dollar, market cap 2.14 trillion, Bitcoin versus gold market cap 9.1%, decline from all-time high, negative 4.0%. That's right, if you buy Bitcoin right now, you get a 4% discount, and realized monetary inflation 0.84%. Continuing to take fiat currencies to absolute school. Guys, Bitcoin is entering the mainstream, and it's quite interesting. You have AOC, extremely famous. I think she has a very good shot at being the 2028 presidential candidate, a Democratic candidate. Guys, you have to understand something. There's a populist uprising on the left and the right. The populist uprising on the right was Donald Trump. The populist uprising on the left was Bernie Sanders. That was never allowed to happen, right? So the establishment kind of stopped that, and it was Hillary Clinton and Biden and all that stuff. But the populist left is now rising, and that is AOC, right? So don't count her out, right? She's extremely influential, very popular. She's quite young, but she has a shot for being the Democratic candidate for president. Make no mistake. Anyways, so here is AOC going head to head with RFK Jr.
I am, as a public servant, completely financially divested of any conflicts of interest with any healthcare companies, any stocks, any lawsuits that I would financially benefit from. Are you?
Yes.
You're completely divested.
Yes.
You have no financial interest in any lawsuit, crypto, none of that.
No. Oh, okay. Crypto? I own Bitcoin.
Okay. And do you have any other securities or assets?
I don't. I mean, I had to go through this with the Office of Government Ethics, and I had a few interests that were very minor that I divested.
Okay, just checking. I'd always like
to.
It's
a good question.
I always like to know what the field is before I enter conversations.
So again, very, 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 very good line of questioning, right? And you can notice how she uses the rhetorical questions, right? She knew the answers to that. And she was basically trying to get you in a gotcha, right? It's this kind of continuation of the pattern of So you're divested, right? You're divested. Just wanted to make sure there's no conflicts of interest. And the reason for that is they don't like Bitcoin. So when they say, "Oh, you own Bitcoin," there's a conflict of interest there. You own Bitcoin, right? But mind you, I don't really take a lot of these arguments seriously, because whether it's congressmen or congresswomen on the Democratic side or the Republican side, they all own stocks and equities. Like, Nancy Pelosi's the best trader of all time, right? So like I just don't, I don't like it goes in one ear, it goes out the other. Now, to give her credit, right? She did sign on to a bill with Matt Gaetz when he was part of Congress that would essentially forbid members of Congress from basically trading. But that bill never went anywhere, obviously. The financial incentive is too great. But the point remains, right? I find it hilarious. I find it really, really interesting, this game of, oh, so you're divested. Why aren't you divested from okay, if you're divested from Bitcoin, you should be divested from fiat. You should be divested from USD. Why, it doesn't make sense, right? Why should I be forced to be invested in a money that loses purchasing power? And why should I not be allowed to be invested, if you want to use that word, or use a money that is designed to increase in purchasing power? Why do I have to make a choice between the two? That makes absolutely no sense, right? But again, look at her expertise. She's so good asking rhetorical questions. She knew the answer to that question, but she wanted to have a little gotcha moment. But I think it's an indication of, again, there are still hostilities towards Bitcoin in certain parts of the government, certain parts of the U.S. government, certain political members of Congress, like the Elizabeth Warren camp and potentially the AOC camp. And remember, guys, they hold a tremendous amount of influence. On the Senate Banking Committee, it is Tim Scott, the Bitcoin senator, Senator Cynthia Lummis, and on the other side, it's Senator Elizabeth Warren. And we know how Senator Elizabeth Warren feels about the industry. She campaigned on building an anti, quote unquote, crypto army. I don't think it served them well last election, but it's important to keep, on top of all this, guys, because remember, midterms are coming up in 2026. Wow, really, dude, they're coming. Dude, they're literally next year in 6 months. 6 months at the end of 2026. So a year and 6 months, the midterms are coming, and it's really important to get members of Congress that are pro industry. And we have an international audience, by the way. This doesn't just apply for you if you live in the United States. Unfortunately, right now, fiat voting matters, right? The most important vote you can make is self-custody, but fiat voting matters. Anyways, we're on the verge of breaking 2,000 live viewers. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Someone in the chat, Nico, do you believe in free speech? Nico, do you believe people should speak their mind? I mean, yeah, of course, obviously.
They're trolling you, bro.
Do you support Opti saying what he wants? No, Opti is forbidden. Opti can't say what he wants. I'm just kidding.
Speaking of,
guys, listen, we are constrained based on the terms of service on the platforms that we are, privileged to be able to broadcast from. And we're just trying to adhere to their guidelines. So, maybe we'll have a Rumble exclusive show one day. But anyhow, Opti, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just very quickly. It's like you guys are saying in the chat, and like what Nico said, it is funny that this is kind of like her gotcha moment. It just absolutely failed. And I think, Nico kind of explained the reasoning. We've known for a while that the left is not very favorable towards Bitcoin. Obviously, not all of them. They're not a monolith. But for the most part, you know, there's been a certain agenda here, and it's obviously been backed by Elizabeth Warren. She's one of the biggest haters on Bitcoin, of course, the anti-crypto army, and anyone that, you know, takes her lead. Again, not a monolith, but that is kind of the generalization here. And so it is kind of, I think there's two things here. One, I think it is hilarious that this is kind of a gotcha when in reality, it's really more of a cell phone. It's like, okay, you don't own Bitcoin. Like, you know, have fun staying poor. Okay, that's cool. Now, the second thing is something I have been saying since this show kind of did start to dabble with politics, or rather since politics started to dabble with Bitcoin, is that this, I think, is a growing trend that we're going to see, is that, you know, one side of the aisle that maybe wants to go more CBDC, maybe clamp down on other people's freedoms, are going to make Bitcoiners into being criminals.
I don't think it's a maybe. I asked this question to Senator Lummis, and maybe we can clip it for you guys, and she said it was a very good question. There is a bill that was introduced in the House last year, and the bill explicitly forbade the U.S. government from launching a central bank digital currency. That bill was literally split across party lines, split down the middle, literally down the middle. It was not monolithic, as Opti said, right? We got Ro Khanna on our side, but basically, by and large, dude, it just sucks saying this because Bitcoin is bipartisan, but by and large, the Republicans were against the CBDC and the Democrats were for a CBDC. And again, that's not an opinion. That's a matter of fact, right? That was a bill that was introduced last year. So I think that's going to change just based on, you know, the results of this previous election. And again, you have to remember, Bitcoin is apolitical. Bitcoin is for anyone. It doesn't take a side. Bitcoin is a neutral technology. Bitcoin is for the disenfranchised. Bitcoin protects the middle class from a monetary debasement. So, you know, this is not a left or right thing. And I really, really dislike, I was going to use the word, the H word, but that's a very strong word. I strongly dislike when, you know, it's forced to become a partisan issue because Bitcoin is not a partisan issue. Bitcoin is for anyone. Don't forget that. Anyways, guys, we still have a hell of a show lined up for you guys. We're going to hit the news segment. We have an update for you guys coming out of the Senate Banking Committee. And this is an article written by Frank Corva. Frank Corva got the first Bitcoin journalist to get a White House press pass. That is fantastic. So shout out to Frank Corva and shout out to our friends over at Bitcoin Magazine, of course. So anyways, we're gonna hit that during the news segment, and then Opti's got a special surprise for you guys during the culture segment. We just broke 2,000 live viewers on the show. 536 of you guys watching live on YouTube alone. 183 likes. Smash that like button. Almost 200 likes. And guys, we will be right back in just a second. We're gonna hit the news segment.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Cold Card. If you're serious about self-custody, Cold Card is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet. There is no second best. The Cold Card Q is the ultimate air-gapped Bitcoin signing device, complete with a full keyboard, large screen, camera, NFC support, and much more. Do you prefer something sleeker? The MK4 is trusted by hardcore Bitcoiners around the world. Both are built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners, secure and open source. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 5% off with promo code SIMPLY. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today with Cold Card.
All right, everybody, we are back, and in my hand, I'm holding the Cold Card Q. Guys, this is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market right now. Opti is usually the model who's showing it off. Literally, it's kind of like the size of, an old BlackBerry, an old Nintendo kind of Game Boy. And again, this is the most secure hardware wallet on the market. It's got a flashlight on the back. Check that out. It's got a scanner, so you can scan QR codes. It has NFC, and it's completely transparent, so you can see if anyone has been kind of messing around with it. And it's powered by AAA batteries, so you can, when it runs out of battery, you can just replace the batteries. And of course, it has USB-C, has 2 slots for an SD card. Yeah, guys, this is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market. Scan the QR code on your screen right there, and you get 5% off anything on the coldcard.com store. Get yourself a Cold Card today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store. All right, everybody, let's jump straight into today's news segment. This was written by Frank Corva, again, Bitcoin Magazine's political correspondent. And what he's talking about is the headline is panelists at Senate banking hearing on crypto market structure call for regulation ASAP. Members of the crypto industry and market asset specialists argue that if the U.S. doesn't pass legislation on digital asset market structure soon, it might cede authority to legal regimes in other countries. Today, the U.S. Senate Banking Committee on Digital Assets hosted a hearing entitled, quote, Exploring Bipartisan Legislative Framework for Digital Asset Market Structure, in which the panelists implored Congress to pass digital asset legislation soon. It goes on to say, spoiler alert, the word Bitcoin didn't come up once in the hearing. With that said, Bitcoin would be the subject to some of the crypto regulation discussed in the hearing. Hence, it's important as a Bitcoin enthusiast to understand what was said. The hearing took place in the wake of Senator Lummis, Senator Tillis, and Senator Haggerty and Senate Banking Committee Tim Scott issuing principles for digital asset market structure this morning. Senator Lummis presided over the event and initiated it by touching on some of the aforementioned principles while also, what does that say? Facetiously adding that now the Senate has voted on the Genius Act. The U.S. is in the process of joining the 21st century financially. The senator was joined by Senator Haggerty, Senator Moreno, Senator Brooks, Senator McCormack, and a panel of witnesses, including Sarah Hammer, the executive director of the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School, and a bunch of other people. Moving on, combating illicit activity in the crypto space. In the first round of questions for Senator Lummis, both Bethan And Hammer stressed the importance of combating illicit activity involving digital assets via clear anti-money laundering and anti-terrorist financial rules, though neither went into detail on what this might look like. When Senator Lummis asked Hammer what country the U.S. should take note of when it comes to its anti-terrorist financial regulation for crypto, Hammer cited Singapore. Before getting off of the topic of combating illicit crypto activity, Benham claimed that the longer Congress waits to pass comprehensive market structure legislation, the more space it gives to unsavory actors to operate. Bad actors will gravitate towards areas that are unregulated. It goes on to say, consumer protection for consumer crypto investors. Senator Haggerty, the primary sponsor of the Genius Act, which recently passed in the Senate, praised the bipartisan efforts in the legislative process around digital assets, alluding to the notion that he'd like to see his colleagues keep up the momentum. And on the topic of bipartisanship, the one Democratic Senate present at the hearing, Senator Brooks, seemed optimistic about the potential of crypto, but also concerned about setting up the proper guardrails for investors. She asked Benham which of consumer protection elements were essential for crypto investors. Benham cited bankruptcy protection as the most important element of consumer protection. Customer assets must be fully segregated so that there's no question in the event of bankruptcy that assets will be returned to customers. And actually, as much as I'm not a fan of like regulation 99% of the time, we saw this during Mt. Gox. We saw this during Celsius. We saw this during a lot of these, BlockFi, a lot of these companies that were custodying Bitcoin for Greg Zag just sent me a message for he's trying to distract me. We saw, a lot of consumers, the famous one with Sam Bankman-Fried, bro, FTX, right? Remember, people still haven't got their Bitcoin back from that, right? And so, and remember, for banks, there's FDIC insurance. So if the bank goes under, you're guaranteed by the federal government up to $250,000, right? So let's say a bank goes under and you have $50,000 or $100,000 with the bank, you're guaranteed up to $50,000 of insurance and guarantee, right? So anyways, I'm going to finish it off with Senator Lummis calling for bipartisanship. I think this is incredibly important. Senator Lummis closed the hearing by imploring her fellow senators as well as the panelists to engage in bipartisan discussions and to work across the aisle as she has done with Senator Gillibrand. She noted that it seems that some Democrats have been reluctant to engage in the legislative process around crypto because President Trump's family is involved in the industry, adding that crypto is bigger than the president's family involvement and that Democrats should acknowledge this. I love this. More of this. More of this. This is the way it should be. Bitcoin is not a partisan issue. Bitcoin is for anyone, and I hope this trend continues. So anyways, guys, we're going to hit, I do want to close.
Wait, there's two things I do want to hit real quick.
Yeah.
One is, I think that point of Singapore is actually huge, especially from just my perspective. The Singapore regulations are actually very favorable for us Bitcoiners. One huge, point in particular is there's no capital gains tax for individuals. So the fact that he's mentioning that, I think it's absolutely huge. I would love to see that in the US. And then, the second part is that Democratic senator essentially saying what a lot of us Bitcoiners have been saying for a long time. Like, I don't know if the framing bankruptcy protection is like the best framing there, but separating the assets, into whatever multi-sig wallets or whatever.
Not rehypothecating.
Exactly.
Right?
Like that is honestly a really good thing.
So, and again, I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. 2,043 of you guys watching live. 94 of you guys watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying today's live stream, smash that like button, smash it hard. And guys, it's going to be a hell of a show. We still have so much lined up for you guys. We're going to cover it. And Opti's got something special for you guys during the culture segment, and we got it lined up. So we will be right back in just 1 second. Let's check out the culture. Here we go.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEdigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Casa makes self-custody easy and secure. As a Bitcoiner, I care about holding my own private keys, but multi-sig can sometimes get tricky. Casa nails it with a multi-key security. So even if one key gets lost or stolen, your Bitcoin stays safe. And you don't give up custody, meaning no one could access your Bitcoin but you. No seed phrase anxiety, no single point of failure. I've been telling my friends and family about Casa for years. Their UX and UI on their app is by far the best in the industry. Inheritance planning is built in, and they even offer Casa for Business if you're thinking about a Bitcoin treasury. Hit up casa.io today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium. Head over to casa.io.
All right, everybody, we are back. Before I pass it on to Opti, I do want to give a shout out to the super chat. Appreciate the $10 from Ron, and appreciate the $5 from Michael, guys. Thank you so much, guys. We wouldn't be here without you. We wouldn't be here without our partners, but we wouldn't be here without our audience. So the super chats help. The donations help. If you guys want to go check out our merch, we're essentially sold out at this point, but we're working on the second batch. All of this stuff helps. Believe it or not, we're a lot bigger than we seem. It's like a team of like 12 of us.
Something like that.
And this whole machine is built to keep getting you guys as much content as possible.
Free content.
Guys, we drop more content. I love all Bitcoin content creators, but yeah, we drop a lot of content. We got another super chat. Dustin DC says, Opti, get Nico a black linen hoodie to match your
Why? I don't think they make linen hoodies, but that would be lit.
That would be very
That
itchy.
would be very lit.
Very itchy.
Linen maxi. I don't care what Nico says. Anyways, for the culture, guys, it's not special. Just Nico didn't really know what it was yet. So we are going to cover this. I found it very interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of heat and tension in the Middle East right now, but that's not what we're going to cover. But remember, we kind of talked about it. TFC dropped this app that you can add to your browser, and it's called the Opportunity Cost browser or extension or whatever. And I just find it not just insane, these numbers, but I love that this is all in Bitcoin terms, and it really kind of does emphasize just how expensive all this stuff is, and as we talk about where the money's coming from. So again, this isn't like a political thing. It's just really the cost in Bitcoin, the opportunity cost of war in Bitcoin terms, and I find it very interesting. It does flip kind of the whole status quo on its head, and when you kind of go through these numbers, it's insane how much this costs in Bitcoin. So I'm going to go through this real quick. Of course, maybe Nico will go down to the, Bitcoin ends wars rabbit hole, but that's not what I want to do. I just want to literally lay down the numbers here and just show how much this costs in Bitcoin terms, aka the opportunity cost. of everything in Bitcoin. And I think this is just a huge example right here. So here we're going to start. Israel fired a missile worth 28.3 Bitcoin to stop a missile worth 18.9 Bitcoin. Every single night for 12 nights straight. The war ended not with victory, but with empty vaults. The total cost of war in Bitcoin over 12 days was wild, and the numbers are staggering. Picture this. This is, kind of setting it up poetic. Israel launches an Arrow interceptor that's 28.3 Bitcoin or $3 million, gone in 8 seconds. They fired 50 to 100 of this. That's 2,830 Bitcoin worth of defense against missiles that cost Iran 18.9 Bitcoin each. Iran's strategy: overwhelm them with volume. 400 plus ballistic missiles launch, 1,000 plus drones. Cost to Iran is 7,554 Bitcoin worth of missiles alone. Cost to Israel 2,124 Bitcoin just in Arrow interceptors. The math of modern war. Both sides lose, obviously, in Bitcoin terms. And then the U.S. entered this in Operation Midnight Hammer, and that's 7 stealth bombers, each carrying bunker busters worth 30.2 Bitcoin or $3.2 million. One night, one operation, 9,442 Bitcoin worth of American firepower. The target, an underground bunker. The result, financial exhaustion. Final tally after 12 days is 240,837 Bitcoin worth of value destroyed, or $25.5 billion. That's more than 1% of all Bitcoin that will ever exist, vaporized in less than 2 weeks. And of course, they will print more dollars to replace it, but they can't print more Bitcoin. Now, obviously, as Bitcoiners, Nico will probably go into this, but I think when you kind of tally this up in Bitcoin terms, it really starts to make way more of an effect on you from us Bitcoiners' perspective.
Was that a Cybertruck for 1 Bitcoin?
Yeah, it was. Here, I'll pull that back up.
Worth it.
I don't know about that. You're tripping.
Totally
You're
worth it.
tripping.
Totally worth it.
But again, just
worth it.
just the idea of opportunity cost of all this stuff. When you kind of talk about dollars, I think we're all used to just the government printing a bunch of dollars. We all know, the military, at least in the U.S., expenses close to $1 trillion. The interest payments is $1 trillion. When you get into these big numbers, it's like, okay, what's a couple trillion between friends here? A couple trillion, government IOUs here, government tokens, vouchers, whatever you want to call them, between friends. But when you price them in Bitcoin, you're like, that's a lot of Bitcoin. Like, they vaporized a lot of Bitcoin. Now, of course, maybe Nico will do the anti-war take on this, but as we've been covering with all of this stuff going on, eventually you run out of money if you don't have the money printer, and in Bitcoin you can't ever print more money. So this is why we constantly go to the same thing always and always and always, that you need to start to save in Bitcoin. You need to store that Bitcoin long term, because hey, what you lose, you may not be able to get back in Bitcoin terms, but at least your purchasing power will go up exponentially. And in a future world, maybe these things will not happen as much, Nico. So first of all, what's your thoughts on the numbers, and then you can do a Nico Jones rant.
Yeah. So quick. I'll discuss my Cybertruck joke second, and then first, let's talk about. Could you pull it up while we talk about it?
I gotcha.
So when we say Bitcoin makes war unaffordable, this is exactly what we mean, right? Like, think about it this way. You'd run out of Bitcoin to pay for the missiles. Like, the reason the fork wars, let's go back to the fork wars. So the reason the fork wars failed, and you have to understand, it was a consortium of the most powerful Bitcoin companies on the face of the planet, the most powerful Bitcoin mining manufacturer on the face of the planet, Jihan, and one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin, Roger Ver, basically trying to make the block size bigger. And that would disproportionately benefit miners, right? But it would also increase the resource requirements to run a node, therefore making Bitcoin more centralized in the process. The reason that attack wasn't successful and the reason that attacks on Bitcoin aren't successful is because eventually what happened with Jihan and Roger is that they ran out of Bitcoin to attack Bitcoin. They ran out of Bitcoin. They didn't run out of Bitcoin completely, but they were like, yo, holy dude, like we just went through 50% of our stack. We can't print more of it. So the reason that miners and node operators and Bitcoiners, the reason we're all working together is not because we're all kumbaya and we all love each other and this is a community. Me and Opti do love each other, but the rest of the community, no, okay, you know what? I don't love you too, bro. You know,
I'm trolling.
So like the reason that everyone gets along is not because they like each other or they're friends. They get along because the incentive structure is aligned, and you're incentivized to play by the rules. You're incentivized to keep the network decentralized and secure. That's the game theory. The game theory of fiat is you can continue to print money to buy more missiles. And Opti was showing you down the breakdown of those missiles, right? Think about it just think about it. Like, could they make an unlimited amount of missiles? No, they would eventually run out of Bitcoin, right? And that's exactly what happened in the Middle Ages. The king would run out of gold. All the soldiers would say, all right, well, it's time to go home now. They would pack it up and they would go home. That's how it was. Fiat incentivizes, this is kind of like this endless war, right? And this is what we're seeing, right? So when we say buy Bitcoin, end war, first of all, it's a very noble cause. That's number one. And number two, it's not an exaggeration. We're being 100% truthful and honest, right? This is what happens when the world is on a sound money system. It's expensive to fund wars. Eventually, the population is going to say, hey guys, I'm sorry. I just don't want to give up more of my Bitcoin to buy these missiles. I'm not going along with it. Maybe they'll do it for a certain amount of time, especially if, your nation is invaded or attacked and there's a justification for it. But specifically the United States, since Eisenhower's speech about the certain type of industrial complex, the United States has been in some type of conflict ever since. We built a machine to fight World War II. That machine still exists. It's still operating today. It still has a tremendous amount of influence, and to use Eisenhower's words, spiritual influence over society, right? So yes, I would even go on a limb. I would say this is a spiritual war. It's really is Bitcoin or endless wars. It really is Bitcoin or nihilism. It really is Bitcoin or destruction, right? It's not an exaggeration when we say that. Now, to kind of wrap it up and put a bow on top, let's talk about the Tesla real quick. I was like half joking and kind of joking. Like, guys, I've been in Bitcoin for 10 years. I own zero. I lost it all in a boating accident, but
he loves
Teslas. And so has Opti. But eventually, you got to live a little bit, right? You got to live a little bit. You only have so much time that you have on this planet. And, if you've been in Bitcoin for a couple cycles, it's okay to take a little bit off the top and
wait, is the Cybertruck the new Lambo, Nico?
I don't have a Cybertruck. But it's okay to take a little bit off the top and live a little bit, right? Now, does that mean that you're selling more than 5 or 10% of your stack and whatever? No. And you could also take out a loan using Ledin, where you don't have to, sell your Bitcoin. There's many different ways, but live a little bit sometimes, guys. At the end of the day, you got one life. Eventually, for the first 4 years, all I did was stack. I didn't sell a single sat For the first 8 years, I think I did that. But a second, eventually you get to a point where you want to start to live a little bit. And part of the reason that we're stuck at 100K is because a lot of OGs that have been holding from like $10 to $100, that we reached 100K and they're like, all right, guys, like we should probably start living a little bit. We've been doing this for like 12 years, bro. Like, let me get myself whatever it is that they like to get. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed today's show, make sure to smash that like button. I do want to end the poll before we wrap up the show. I asked you guys, the plate is super fast. Where is the poll, dude? I ended the poll. I don't know. I don't see where the results are. That's weird. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I asked you guys, will Bitcoin hit 250K by the end of 2025? 60% of you guys said yes. 40% of you guys said no. 180 of you guys voted. And I do want to give a shout out to Rumble. Broke 100 live viewers on Rumble. 473 right now currently on YouTube. And 1,753 on X. Again, love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Smash the like button, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow for a brand new episode of SB Live. Take care, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.